What's up, everybody? This is Zach with Nerd Cave Plus for April the 3rd, 2018. And I'm hoping that you're having a great week so far and that you didn't fall for any April Fools because there were a lot out there, like the Disney deal falling through with Fox and everything. So don't fall for those things. I almost fell for the Lion King going to Antarctica. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But April's Fools has passed and went. Easter was this past Sunday, so hope that you had an awesome weekend. We got a ton of news to go through, so without further ado, let's check that out. But before we do that, shout out to our awesome sponsors tonight, patreon.com/nerdcave. Yeah, we're sponsoring ourselves, so there you go. We'll talk more about that later in the show. Now, Super Smash Bros. On the Switch heavily features third party. Now, this is a rumor, so take this with a grain of salt, my friends. A new rumor suggests that recently announced Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo Switch heavily features third parties. If true, a greater number of guest characters opens the doors for players to see some of their favorite characters from the other companies finally to get some love in Nintendo's flagship fighting game. Video game journalist Marcus Sellers claims to have insider information on the upcoming game. According to Sellers, third-party characters will be heavily represented in the new Super Smash Bros. He also says the game will feature a story mode designed for two-player co-op play, and Seller claims that the game will also have the return of the Ice Climbers. If you didn't know, the Ice Climbers on the Super Smash Bros. Wii U version, they didn't have the Ice Climbers because you could play with the 3DS version as well, and there was some kind of mechanic that would not allow the 3DS to do that. So we didn't get any of Ice Climbers' goodness back then. But we should be getting that now, which makes me extremely happy. Super Smash Bros. Will see the return of the Ice Climbers and will feature a story mode around the two-player co-op. Third parties will be heavily represented in the new game as well. Now, the thing that I take away from this is kind of twofold here. We have third parties. That opens the door for a ton of things. We can see Banjo-Kazooie come in. I know a lot of people have been wanting that. We've already seen Sonic. We've seen Snake before. We've seen Street Fighter. We've seen a ton of other characters come through the Super Smash Brothers. But what if we see Crash Bandicoot? I think Activision would be silly not to put Crash into Super Smash Brothers if this is true. Normally, Super Smash Brothers third-party games, though, are Japanese-based. So I'm curious to see if they go away from that and that we see, Banjo-Kazooie there. We see something like a Master Chief in there. That would be awesome. Or a Marcus Phoenix. I don't think either one of those really fits in that, but we'll see. And then I wonder if Sony will be game for any of this. Could we see, some of their characters within the game? Do we see Kratos in there? Do we see, we've just seen Geralt from Witcher be put into Soul Calibur 6 and everything. So I'm curious to see what third parties necessarily means. Do we see it from the bigger, the first parties from the other big two, or do we see stuff from like Assassin's Creed? It's curious to see where we can go with this. I'm curious, what do you want to see? Do you want to see Goku in this, or do you want to see a Gundam? I'm curious what you got going on between the ears, so let me know down in the comments below. Now, this one just warmed my soul to the core. Shadow of War permanently removes microtransactions. I'm just going to take a victory lap right now in my mind that my war on microtransactions is finally I got a victory here, everybody. I got a victory, and that's all that matters to me. One victory, and we'll win the war soon enough. Posted on the WB Games official website, the announcement stated that being able to buy orcs with real-world money undermines the experience born from Shadow of War's Nemesis system. It only took you 6 months to figure that out. It means you probably weren't making the money that you got, and the flack that you got for it wasn't worth the money you got. The core promise, and this is what they put on their website, the core promise of the Nemesis system is the ability to build relationships with your personal allies and enemies in a dynamic open world. While purchasing orcs in the market is more immediate and provides additional player options, we have come to realize that providing this choice risks undermining the heart of our game, the Nemesis system. It allows you to miss out on some of the awesome player stories you would have otherwise created, and it compromises the same stories even if you don't buy anything. Simply being aware that they are available for purchase reduces the immersion in the world and takes away from the challenge of building your personal army and your fortress. In order to fully restore the core promise of the Nemesis system, we are permanently removing gold, war chests, and the market from Shadow of War. This means the option to purchase gold with real-world money and the ability to gain orc followers from war chests will be removed. This change will come into effect May 8th, when players will no longer be able to purchase the gold with real-world money. Players are still able to spend gold and receive it until the market is closed for good on July 18th. Now, this comes on the heels as well that Shadow of War's Desolation of Mordor expansion is also due out next month. Desolation of Mordor will feature a new story campaign which allows you to play as Baranor, the captain of the Tower of Minas Ithil, and will also include a new region, the Desert of Lithlud, and new beasts and wereworms. For me, okay, this is just me going off the cuff, and I'll answer Derek's question right here. This is a win. This is a win for the consumer, okay? I'm going to read Derek's question just in case I answer everything that he's going to say. Derek says, with Shadow of War permanently removing microtransaction from their game 6 months after release, and with Star Wars Battlefront 2 making all these changes to their progression system, could we see the turning of the tide with the great microtransaction debate? One can hope. One can hope, Derek. With what I'm seeing is there are games that are built for microtransactions. It's literally built in there. Some of them are shoehorned in there. Shadow of War is one of them. And then you have, I'm not even going to touch Star Wars Battlefront. I've already talked about that in so much depth. But we're seeing right here a company that is moving back away from it. That's a good thing. Should have been there in the first place? No, it shouldn't have been there at all. Does it mean that we're going to see less companies using a microtransaction model? Possibly. I'm really hoping that we're going to see more of that, but with some of these companies, 2K being one of them, Take-Two, sorry, not 2K. 2K is one of them as well. Take-Two making over 50% of their revenue from microtransactions, it's hard to justify them getting rid of microtransactions. So we're seeing this become a huge thing, and people are getting greedy. Shareholders are pushing it like nobody's business, and that's why we ended up with something like Shadow of War the way it was, and definitely Battlefront 2. Both of these making changes, I think, are a little too late. But I'm glad to see it happening, but I think it's already left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. I know when I streamed it the week it came out or whatever, I'd got my copy from Gamefly. I had people saying in the chat that I was paid off by WB. And I was like, if only I was popular enough to be paid off by WB, but I'm not. So I think it's a little too late, but I'm glad to see that they're making changes because it could be an awesome game. A lot of people really loved Shadow of Mordor, and I think people could really love this game, and I think with it coming out with a new expansion and getting rid of this, I think it might actually bring some people into the game that passed on it originally because of the microtransactions. So I'm curious to see where it goes from here, and I'm glad to see that more companies are shying away from microtransactions. And you look at games that are like Fortnite that are clearly a free-to-play market. It's a little bit different there. I still don't like the microtransactions at all in that game, but at least you're not having to buy the game, and then you have to pay for the rest of the game through microtransactions and loot crates. So I'm glad to see that Shadow of War is actually taking a stance on this and changing it, and we're seeing Battlefront doing some of the same things, but they're actually adding them back in, I want to say, or they might have taken them out. I don't remember. I know they took them out and then add them back in. you never know with EA. They might try to steal your grandma after a while. Speaking of people that love microtransactions, Overwatch, Jeff Kaplan explains why a Battle Royale mode would be tricky for the game. Jeff Kaplan has responded to fan requests for an Overwatch equivalent of the increasingly ever-present Battle Royale mode, saying that the dev team has considered it for the game, but the shoehorning in isn't as straightforward as some players seem to think. Speaking to Kotaku, the Overwatch game director said, "A lot of the times when I hear some of our fans pitch they're like, oh, just put a card in like arcade one day and that's a Battle Royale mode." And I'm like, heck yeah, that would be awesome. But there's a lot of design and tech work that to get us to that place. And it's not just, oh Lord, sorry guys, that place, and not just feel like a Me Too game. First and foremost, Overwatch is a game about heroes, and part of what makes the core loop work in a Battle Royale game is search, the looting, and the fairness that everybody's sort of on equal ground. He explained, Overwatch wasn't designed to be a 1v1. Every hero is not balanced against every other hero. Another problem is the comparative map size between Overwatch and Battle Royale games like Fortnite and PUBG. I think there are also some technical challenges of large open game spaces, Kaplan said. Our primary engagement distance is usually 15 to 40 meters. The Hanamura Dojo point B is 45 meters across. I don't think people realize how tiny it is. Part of what makes Fortnite and PUBG so awesome is that you can have these really long engagement distances. It seems that Kaplan and his team were to shoulder the task of creating a Battle Royale experience. It would not be in Overwatch. Building those systems and getting that many players, I think Battle Royale for Overwatch starts to get into a new game territory, he said. I'm glad to see more people not jumping on the Battle Royale mode. We've got so many games that are trying to gather and garner other people's interest by making these sort of games. You can go on the mobile market right now and see 50 clones of the same game. And then you have PUBG, and then you have Fortnite as well. Both of these games are doing well because they set themselves apart. And I think with Fortnite in itself, it's done such a good job because it runs so well. And I'm glad to see Kaplan's taking a stand and be like, it'd be awesome. It would be, but our game's not meant to be that. And we're not going to be that. We're going to be focusing on the things that we're wanting to do with the game. And I think that's a great thing to know what you are, where you want to go, and how you want to get there. And a Battle Royale mode is not for Overwatch. And I applaud Kaplan for wanting to keep it the way they've designed it. So good job. I'm proud of you, Jeff. Now, to the game that I really want to talk about this episode. God of War has some in-game content and will be different to the New Game Plus. We'll talk about that as well. The inclusion of a New Game Plus mode which will unlock upon completion of the campaign that leaves all of your progression intact at the start of the next playthrough will be in there from what I'm getting right here. Previous installments of God of War feature the popular mode, but is yet to be confirmed of the new game. Corey Barlog, which is one of the lead guys on this, says, he tweeted, we have something a little different this time around. It's more like we're playing when you finish because there is so much stuff we put in beyond the main journey. In correspondence to a fan inquiring about inclusion, Barlog stated that God of War will feature something a little different from New Game Plus and will instead allow gamers to continue playing once you finish because they've added so much stuff beyond the main quest. Another tweet is evasive but suggests that this content will only be accessible once you complete the game. He says, yep, don't want to spoil anything by getting specific, but there is. From that right there, I'm glad that we're getting a little past the New Game Plus stuff. I know a lot of people really love that mode type and everything. Once I finish a game and it's like, okay, play it again, it's not for me. I've only done it with one game, and it was so difficult just because Arkham Origins had a weird little bug in its fighting mechanics and everything, made the Bane fight on the rooftop extremely difficult and made me want to throw my controller across the room, and I'm not that kind of person. But I'm glad that they're going to be adding more to the story and keep people playing, because just the little bit that I've heard is going to be a pretty long and in-depth game, which I'm excited for because I love God of War. God of War is such a great game. I love that series, so I cannot wait for April 20th. A little bit more God of War news here, though. God of War is to receive a performance mode on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Keeping in line with what Shadow of the Colossus did in February, God of War director Cory Barlog has announced that the PlayStation 4 players will be able to play the game in a performance mode. According to Barlog, the game upscales to 4K resolutions for those with 4K TVs, and those who don't play in 4K will net a performance boost. When asked about it, Barlog did not specify the game would play in 60 frames per second, but simply said that it would be smooth. He did confirm that the performance mode was for the Pro only with a tweet. He said, PS4 Pro only, if you run in 1080 on Pro, it will use the power normally used to render in 4K to make the game run faster. It looks/moves so nice. I'm excited. We got a question, though, here from Derek Daniel. With God of War just a few weeks away, I have a few questions regarding the game. Here we go. Number 1, with all the hype and intrigue surrounding with its recent marketing push, talking about the length of the game, post-game content, performance on the PS4 Pro, etc., do you think that this game will exceed expectation, as I think it'll be one of Sony's best-selling games this year with only Spider-Man to rival it, or do you think it will hit short of the mark? I think that getting all of this news is just exciting for me. God of War Ascension was such a huge disappointment, and I didn't finish the game. The first 3 games, I could not put them down. Ascension, they changed so much, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't handle this. This game looks like it's going back to, quote-unquote, its roots, and having all of this, having length to it, and getting you to develop the characters and everything. I'm really, really excited. I think this will be, like you said, one of the best-selling games this year for Sony. I think Spider-Man has the potential to outsell it just because it's a much bigger audience that knows Spider-Man compared to God of War, since Spider-Man is literally Marvel's biggest character in my opinion. But God of War is definitely one of PlayStation's biggest franchises, so I think they will be kind of neck and neck essentially. But I am very, very, very stoked for it. Question number 2. I know they haven't talked much about how deep the story goes per se, but do you think this entry will spawn new stories for this mythology, or will this be a one-and-done scenario? I can kind of see it being maybe a trilogy or a duology, with having Kratos teaching his son, because we've seen so far his son does not know who Kratos really is. He doesn't know that he's the God of War. So I'm curious to see how that is going to play into it. And if the further we go along, I don't know how many years, essentially, or if this is like a month journey or something like that, this game takes place. But if we see the kid grow up, I'm sure he's got some kind of powers in him and everything, and Kratos is kind of molding him. I'd be interested to see if the son takes over, and if that happens, it's kind of a whole new ball game, because we have seen Kratos is almost a one-dimensional character at times, but I still love him because he's just awesome. But seeing him, his character hopefully develop more in this game will be awesome, and then maybe seeing his son take on that role would be even better, in my opinion. Number 3, regardless of how you've answered question 2, I remember they put out an article in January talking about the future of the series and how they could explore other mythologies down the road, such as Egyptian or Mayan, etc. Do you think we'll get more one-offs in the series based on the success of this title, and would you want Sony to essentially turn this franchise into Assassin's Creed? I love the take that the first 3 God of Wars took on the mythology, the Greek mythology. I'm very excited to see its take on Norse mythology. I think they're going to do an awesome job, and I'm sure it'll be way more accurate to what Norse mythology actually is compared to what a lot of people believe is Norse mythology considered in the Marvel universe. It's nothing like that. For me personally, the only way I would want this to continue is if it makes sense. If it becomes something that's yearly or every 5 years, it's a yearly thing would not be good for this franchise. It would kill it in a heartbeat, and then you've got an ascension on your hand again. But having something that is well crafted and the story makes sense, like Kratos leaving leaving Greece, that made sense. Him going somewhere that no one knows who he is, what he is, and all of that makes total sense. There's gods there. There's more things for him to kill and everything. Would I want to see an Egyptian one? Heck yeah, that would be awesome. But it has to make sense. I don't think just having put Kratos wherever and he kills all the gods. Like, he had motivation in the first 3. I'm curious what his motivation is. I'm saying curious a lot today. Sorry, everybody. I'm pensive on what his motivations are. What are his motivations for the story? Where is he going? Why is he doing these things? And I think that's the biggest motivator. It's got to make sense to the player, and if it doesn't, then you don't need to do it. Don't run it into the ground. Don't make it something that is not worth bringing back down the road, because between 3 and this one, there's been a lot of years. You know, they had Ascension, and I'll forgive them for that one if this one's good, which I'm sure it will be. But this is a chance for them to kind of wipe that slate clean and start something new and fresh. And like I said, with the second question, if they use the sun and have some sort of motivation there, that would be even better. And I could see that going past this new trilogy or duology or whatever. Last article of the night, Telltale releases a teaser image for Walking Dead's final season. Indie developer and publisher Telltale Games has posted a teaser image to promote The Walking Dead, the final season. With an axe in hand, Clementine is bracing Season 2's Alvin Jr. from zombies in the second photo, shown, you can look it up. As one Twitter user has pointed out, this teaser with Clementine for the final season is a reflection of the original promo image for the first season, in which we see Lee protecting her from a walker attack. I love that they have the foresight to have that kind of like callback. I love that. That is awesome. Telltale is planning to reveal gameplay for Clementine's final season during a panel from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Central Time on April 6th at PAX East. Those which wish to watch the panel can go to PAX Twitch channel. You can check that out. Find out Clementine's fate when the final season is available later this summer. When I saw this, I was like, wow, this is definitely an end of an era. I remember playing the first season of Walking Dead and just being blown away. The storytelling was so great. The engine, of course, was not good. Telltale's engine's been just trash the whole time. But at that point in time, seeing them do something that on that level, it was just mind-blowing. And the second season was really good as well. Third season, I have not played all the way through. I haven't played all the way through. But I definitely want to play through it because Clementine means so much as a character. And seeing her grow up and change because of what's been going on is such a big, big deal. And I can't wait to see it. I will probably avoid watching anything about it because I want to go in fresh and clean to the game where nothing is spoiled, nothing, like I don't know anything going in, so I can just enjoy it because that's the greatest thing in my mind is being able to just enjoy the game and experience it from beginning to end without anybody ruining anything, because if somebody would have ruined the end of season 1, like that's such an impactful moment that it's hard to make that happen. You have to really buy into the characters, and that's one thing. Like, so far in season 3 that I've been playing, it's been kind of hard to buy into the characters. The end of the first episode, though, wow, that was a shocker. I'm not going to go into that, but that was big. So if you're a Telltale fan, if you're a Walking Dead fan, in fact, if you haven't played them, I don't know where you've been, but this is huge. This has been going on for a very long time, probably 7 or 8 years, something like that. I know I was kind of late to the party on playing the first season of The Walking Dead, but after that, I was on board. So can't wait to see that. We got one last question before we jump into the releases. Derek asked, let me ask you, what are your predictions will be for when we can expect to play the game? He's talking about Spider-Man. Spider-Man from Insomniac. Will it be right before E3 or in early June, or will it release in September as there were rumors suggesting that a few months ago, or will it release somewhere in between? To give context, Sony has announced a release date for their exclusives within 3 months of the game actually releasing. So if it was September, it'd be the biggest gap between the announcement and release. If you haven't heard, everybody, that tomorrow on April 4th, Sony and Insomniac are going to release the date for Spider-Man, which I'm super excited for. That's going to be amazing. Can't wait to get that game. It just looks great. So for me, if I was an executive, okay, we've got a game in April. That's a big game. April, May, June. I would have this game come out in July. The reason why I make it come out in July is because there's a lot of people that there's not really a lot of people who put out games in July. It's one of those kind of like dead zones. If you're really wanting people to play, July would be great. If it's right before E3, that would be awesome too. That's kind of reminiscent of what Last of Us did back in, when was that? 2012, something like that. Fact check me. Let me know in the comments when that was. But they put it right before E3. And I think that's just an area right there that a lot of people do not tread. A lot of indies do tread that, but bigger AAAs, first-party games usually don't release in that window right there. So I would love to see it right there. If it's September, that is a huge gap. So that's April. So May, June, July, August, September. That's 5 months. With them pushing Days Gone back, maybe. It could be their fall game and everything, but I would really hope that it's sooner than later. And the closer you get to October, you're dealing with Red Dead Redemption in November and everything. You've seen Call of Duty move its date up because of that. You're dealing with a lot of other factors the later in the year you go. So the earlier is better, in my opinion. And the summer months are just so woefully unattended that it would be an awesome way to get in another game on the PlayStation that would get people to buy the PlayStation. That's just my thought process. So I can't wait to see it. I'm curious to see what the date is tomorrow. So I'm excited. Can't wait. Oh, so if you're wanting some awesome content other than the Nerd Cave, Nerd Cave Plus, you can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave. Support us there. You can get exclusive content. We have an awesome video up right now about the foods we hate. I love that video. That was a lot of fun to do. We release all of our content, if it's pre-recorded, early over on our Patreon site and everything, like Nerd Caves and Dragons goes up early. You can get the Nerd Cave podcast early and everything. Since this is a live show, can't do it early for people and everything. But you're also entered into raffles, and we had our first raffle last night, and we're going to be sending off a lot of awesome stuff to people. I can't wait to do that again. We're going to do it every quarter, so every 3 months we'll pick 3 names out of random number generator, and we'll start sending people stuff out. So if you want to support us, if you want to make the Nerd Cave even better, that's the way to do it. It keeps our gear up to date. It makes everything run better. It helps us buy games. It just makes us the financial burden of doing this easier. So if you want to check it out, go over to patreon.com/nerdcave. All it is you putting your name in there, you putting your credit card, supporting us. It's like a subscription to like Loot Crate or something that you like. And I hope you like Nerd Cave. We work really hard on it, and we hope that you enjoy the content that we're giving you. Now, Spider-Man, it could be tomorrow it comes out. It could be 5 months from now, or it could be never. But if you wanted to know what the newest and latest games that were available, you're in the right place. Here are the games that have been coming out. Game that released on April Fool's, April 1st, Spartan for the Switch. Game releases for today, April 3rd. The Adventure Pals for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and Mac. I wonder if they're adventurous, and are they friends? Crisis on the Planet of the Apes for the PlayStation VR, Rift, and Vive. Oh, good to drink a Coke sometimes. Deadland for the PlayStation 4. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim for the VR, for the Rift and Vive. Epic Dumpster Bear Dumpster Fire Redo. Don't know what that game sounds like, but sounds like my kind of game for the PlayStation 4 and PC. Infernium for the PlayStation 4 and PC. Island Time VR for the PlayStation VR, Rift, and Vive. I want to say that Island Time, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is the game that Greg Miller actually voices a crab on there, and I've only seen good things. I love Greg Miller, so if you like Greg Miller, go check that one out. If you go watch the trailer, he is the voice of the crab and everything. So if you don't like Greg Miller, don't get that game. Minute, M-I-N-I-T, for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Mac, and Linux. Penny Punching Princess for the Switch and the Vita. The Vita lives, because we got one more Vita game for you right here. Sir Eats a Lot for the Vita. Terra out for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And games that are coming out April 4th. Dangun Fevron for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Metropolis Lux Obscura for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. Raiders of the Broken Planet Hades Betrayal Campaign for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. I don't know why people name stuff the things that they do, but they do anyway, even though I try to tell them not to. I haven't actually spoke to them. So we hope that you enjoyed the podcast. The things that I've been playing lately, I've just got back into Horizon Zero Dawn, and I just love that game. The more I play it, the more I love it. So if you haven't played that game, you need to. The other game that I've been playing is Fortnite, the little bit. Like, I'm talking about the insiest little bit, because I'm having time to play lately. But I've really, really enjoyed the little bit of time that I've got with it. And I'm hoping to get to play A Way Out soon. I know me and Derek Daniel have been trying to get up and everything to play that. Schedule's not working out and everything, but I've really been curious about that game. But there's a ton of stuff coming out, and then April 20th we're getting God of War, so I'm just gonna disappear for a while and just play. This is going to be grand and glorious. It is going to be amazing. But it's a great time to be a gamer. Let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. If you haven't already, go over to youtube.com/nerdcavegaming. Subscribe there. And if you're an audio listener, if you like podcasts, if you don't have time to watch a live show every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m., you can go over to any podcast service. I'm talking about any podcast service, including Spotify. Yeah, the glorious Spotify. We're on there as well. You can go over, look up Nerdcave Plus. Check it out. Like us, review us, Put it 5 stars up there. It helps us rank and everything. Share it with somebody you love. Share it with somebody that loves video games, because one day they'll look at you and be like, John, I'm talking to you right now, John. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this with me. It makes me happy, or I hope it does. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/nerdcave. And Thursday, we will not have an episode of Nerdcave Plus. I think I said Nerdcave Podcast. It's been a long day, everybody. So we will not have an episode of Nerdcave Plus on Thursday. I'm going to be at a recital for my wife, and she's going to sing beautifully. So won't have an episode then, but it's going to be awesome anyway. We'll be back next Tuesday, and it's going to be fun. So this has been Zach. Now have a week.